Well, hello everyone. You have right here, I'm talking about right here. I'm talking about for hard work and disability right here. I'm talking about for special right here. And you see right here that I want to put together right here about, talking about for hard work. But, you also see right here that I included this other document right here that talks about, for every given voice is a given choice. And, really, what does that mean? Well, like everything else that we kind of think about, and we go ahead and write those ideas down, or if anything, that you just kind of talk about them. And like, let's just say that if you're going to be having a meeting with somebody talking about stuff, and half the time you're always want to know too, okay, what does this mean, and what does that mean, and maybe even whenever you do start writing about it, you want to know too that you go ahead and start writing about something and thinking as toward, yeah, if you were to go ahead and maybe read it out, read it to somebody, or if you were to just kind of read it at your own time. And you want to know too that, a few paragraphs or so or other sentences, a lot of times it's like, really, does that really make any sense? Whichever. But you have right here talking about older sister and older brother being the oldest, does it. So it's like, so that's so far as the saying about that. Whenever it comes to, whenever you give, you are also thinking about, someone special. And so I include this right here, and if we can all see this right here, so if I were to actually start writing right here, and like everybody else might say, is toward it, you go ahead and start writing about something. And let's just say that if I were to include, like, what you call, like everybody else would say, that I don't know if anybody has tried this or anything, but where you said to where you go ahead and set like a, I don't know, about a timer or something like that. You set something to where it 5 minutes later or something like that. So I know that a lot of times that if I'm going to be setting any source of goal, for sure that I would probably include four. I would probably put the number 4 on there. Why would I want to use the number 4? Well, I guess part of that reason is because that, if we were to look on a scale between maybe 1 and 50 or so, like everybody else might say, that if you're trying to set a goal toward anything that you would want to talk about, that you would choose a number, right? You would choose a number, and that number, from like a scale from 1 to 1 to 10 or something like that. And so you're thinking as toward, okay, so if you were to pick a number and set a goal, but you have right here, talking about 4 right here, but I can, so like, let's just say that whenever you do first start working on something, that you say, 4 minutes. So like, let's just say that if you set the goal for 4 minutes, right? You set the goal for 4 minutes, and if you were to actually look at that right there, and you're warned to where, oh, okay, well, no, it's not going to take that long. So a lot of times it's like, so every time you do think about any goals and achievements, right, and a lot of times it's you always kind of want to put this to a challenge right here, to where that every time you think about right here, like everybody else might say that this right here is supposed to be like any sort of logo design or something like that. But you have right here that I include right here, talking about for the sisters, right? And with the sisters right here, that you have both of them smiling, but one of them, one of them's going to be looking like if they're going to have like what you call between what sorts of thinking, what exactly are you thinking about whenever you do have these discussions, whenever it comes to setting a goal and achievement, or maybe thinking about something, or maybe if you have an idea about something or something like that. And so like a lot of times it's like every time you do think about that, and the first thing that you're going to be thinking about is that I remember having a conversation about that, somebody might say that I remember having a conversation about that, to my daughter, or maybe to my wife or something like that, to my husband. And you start talking about stuff like, let's just say that if you're talking about a goal that you've been working on for a long period of time, but it's like, for sure that you might go ahead and say that it's going to take time. It's going to take time, But like everybody else may say, is toward it, just to be able to speed up the process, though, that if you are really anxious to be able to show somebody something, and like everybody else might say, is toward it, what's one thing that you would think that you would be able to do just to be able to speed up the process of what you were working on? And everybody else might say is toward that, yeah, well, for sure, that somebody's going to maybe say that, from how much hard work that you put into something, and also being impressive, like, yeah, the type of look they give to you. The type of look, like most children would even say too, that, yeah, that the pretty please type look, like everybody else might say, is to where that if you have a conversation with anybody that you're going to be talking to, and let's just say that, they ask if they can see something, and, you probably thinking too, is to where that, well, yeah, I'll go ahead and, we can talk about that the next time, I see you, or something like that. And so a lot of times it's like, yeah, it's all about the measure, right? But let's just say that, if you're going to be working on something for sure, and like everybody else might say, is toward it, you start talking about, yeah, impressive gifts right here. But let's just say that if I was going to be writing right here, if I was going to be, doing like a logo design right here, to where you have this example right here of the sisters right here. And the reason why I was working on this, number one, was actually talking about that, yeah, this picture right here is supposed to represent the two sisters. I'm like, yeah, if one of them is going to be a junior in school, and the other one is going to be a sophomore or a freshman or something like that. But, and, everybody else might say that, yeah, it's, two girls, or, but still, that I'm actually using this right here as another way of, like, talking about for every voice is a given choice right here. So, like, let's just say that if this was like a source, a logo design right here, and let's just say that on the bottom right here, that I'm going to go ahead and write on here is toward, yeah, 5 minutes, and like, but then I can go ahead and put on here that, 5 minutes, 4 minutes, or something like that. Yeah, 5 minutes later, you say that you set a goal for 4 minutes or something like that. But still, that I'll go ahead and put on here that whenever it comes to understanding about disability, and so when we do talk about a disability, though, it's like so talk about cousins, and so that's one thing that I did want to mention right here. Whenever it comes to cousins, cousins are our family. Cousins are the children by by the parents parents side, and I guess you could say is toward that they are basically by the aunt or the uncle, or maybe if it is from like what you call maybe the married side or something like that, or biological side or something like that. So whenever you do talk about that, and you're thinking as to where that that number one, I'm like, when you give whenever you give whenever you do give, you are thinking about someone special. And so I'm going to put right here talking about cousins, but then also about giving. And when I give, I am also thinking about someone, and that someone could be anyone, but still that that someone I am talking to could be very interested in what I do. So if you were to, so like let's just say that if I were to include that right there for a message right there, and let's just say that if I were to, if you want to go ahead and just paste that, paste it on right. So I have that like for a message right there, and a 102 is to where yeah, you go ahead and place that in on the document right there. But I'm like, yeah, like everybody say, if you're going to go ahead and write in a message, and let's just say that somebody's going to say this to where you go ahead and yeah, you go ahead and write a message, and you go ahead and like, yeah, and then you see this blank spot right here, and like everybody else might say is to where, yeah, you see a blank spot right here to where you can actually add any text and writing or anything like that. But a lot of times it's like, yeah, whenever you do see something that's halfway done, or maybe if you can maybe just see a little bit of a few examples of what it looks like whenever it is done. A lot of times everybody else might say as to where that usually how that usually happens a lot of times, that whenever you are going to be looking at any sorts of document in writing, and 102 is to where yeah, that whenever you do see something that's halfway done or something like that, or if you just really like everybody else might even say that based on your experience though, that yeah, that whenever you do start writing about something, that you're just yeah, sometimes you're just trying to get something off your mind, or if you're just trying to provide that true honest feeling about what is it that you're thinking about. And a lot of times it's like every time you do think about that, and 102, that yeah, if you looked real closely right here at the image right here, and what exactly is it do you think that's telling you? And like everybody else might say, is to where most of the time that there's a lot of goals that can be achieved, and there's a lot of emotional feeling whenever you do talk and interact with somebody, and let's just say that they're going to tell you that could you please show me and show me what you're doing, and so yeah, so it's like, so every time you do think about that, and you're maybe just thinking as to where that yeah, you remember having conversations with your older brother or an older sister about some of the stuff here about is to where yeah, that the things I'm like, yeah, like every Friday night or something like that you're going to maybe have these conversations with a cousin or somebody, and 102 is toward anything that you want to talk about, and so that's why it seems like that why do you think that maybe an idea like this would approach anybody, to where you're going to have two people smiling? I'm like, yeah, smiling, and then knowing about that, yeah, you're looking straight, and then this one right here looks like that they're looking to the left and all that. So yeah, so you have right here is this image right here, and also for every given voice is a given choice, and so like everybody might even say is to where that really, what does that really have anything to do with a disability? But I'll just mention right here of talking about is that yeah, that very interested in what I do, but the disability though. Would mean that this person had harder times understanding the needs based on what is required. So it's like, yeah, so every time you do think about that yeah, I can say requirements too, but so every time you do think about that, and you're always warned to where that yeah, requirements are basically the same thing as rules, right? And so it's like, so every time you do, maybe not every time you think about that, but still that but talking about for disability right here, and means that that a person has a hard time understanding the needs based on what the requirements are. And so I just really want to talk about over here, talk about for cousins. I'm like, yeah, space, and like, and over here I can go and put on here, so like, yeah, so whenever you do start writing, that you want to go ahead and talk a little bit about what does it mean to give. When you do give, you are, speaking, right? You are speaking, trying to, trying to show your support. Then also that you are showing that you do care, and that you may start the conversation by saying that you are, I'm like, yeah, you are disabled. And so it's like, so each time you do think about that, and you want to know too, yeah, about your disability. I have a disability. So each time you do think about that, and you're always want to know too, that is that really going to limit your ability to where that readers can really understand what is it that you're trying to talk about, what is it that you're trying to say, and how much hard work that you're willing to put into something. And a lot of times, every time I think about that, and I'm always thinking too, is to where that whenever you do think about that and talk about that, and like say that the special is telling that someone there's something about you that is needed. And so I'll put on here like, yeah, something that you have the company needs, but they are trying to figure out what it is. And I can go and put on like, yeah, about the unknown, the uncertainty and all that, unknown. So really, anybody that might even say too that, every time you do think about, the unknown a lot of times, it's like whenever you do think about that and want to know that, the things from what you do know and the things from what you don't know. And every time you do think about the things that you don't know, it's like, it really can be very frustrating, right? So it's like, I'm like, yeah, so like everybody might even say that each time you have a conversation talking about something, and let's just say that the main reason why you're writing and talking and then just writing a story or something, and and it's you're just typing something. One of those reasons is because that you're just trying to you're trying to piece together enough information to where that you're able to piece together a few clues of the problem. Like so, like let's just say that one of the reasons why that you're just writing down a message and just writing down notes or anything, just talking in particular, just writing in the message right here that you're just trying to gather enough information right here, right? So it's like, yeah. So every time you might think about that, and you 102 is toward it, yeah. Whenever you do start writing, that you may type enough information on there to where it would make it it makes it easy for you to understand, right? But trying to help this other person understand what you're talking about, and maybe that's another reason why, like everybody says, to where that you want to go ahead and for sure, just to be more common with the type of language and writing, and then also about whenever it comes to understanding like something such as the media, the infographic, though. But that was one thing I want to talk about here. Talk about for hard work, and also the things from what we do know and what we don't know. But I just want to talk to everybody here about that. About whenever it comes to the pictures right here, because people might say that with most pictures, though, that if you're going to be looking at a picture right here and 102, that yeah, unless if you're having a conversation with this somebody, and you might think as toward, okay, yeah, that are you really able to tell what exactly is it that they're saying just by looking at? I'm like, yeah, look at them straight in the eye, but still, it's like, yeah, you have right here is the painting right here, but still, each time I think about this, and you're probably thinking as to where, yeah, if you're going to have an older brother and older sister that you're going to be talking to and talking to them about the things and anything that you want to kind of go in kind of like a drama about the things that you were talking about and the things that you were kind of like doing, yeah, face chat with or something like that. But, the reason why I was, besides politics, but the reason why I was working on this right here was actually talking about students and tell everybody, I'm like, yeah, students. So it's like if you were a student and let's just say that, you were go ahead and, you were trying to use this right here is to describe, about your disability. And so it's like every time you think about that and you're thinking is toward, okay, yeah, about your disability. And so you have right here of talking about with this writing right here, and somebody might say is toward it whenever you do think about giving, though. But one thing I did want to talk about right here is that if you actually see an example of a letter that was written, and maybe let's just say that if you see something that really interested you about, okay, that looks real interesting right there. This looks real interesting. You might even say that, oh yeah, that's going to take time. But how often are you really going to say? How often are we going to say, oh yeah, it's only going to take me it's only going to take me 4 minutes to do it. And how many of us are really going to, how many of us are really going to be honest and say that, yeah, it's only going to take 4 minutes, or no, it's going to take 400 minutes or something like that. You say something like, it's going to take 400 minutes. And in case of anybody that may want to know too, that if you've done the math, that's about 5 hours. And so, like everybody else might say, is toward it. If you were to be trying to set a goal for any, for anything that you're going to be working on, for sure, that do you think for any, like everybody else might say, is that do you think that it's best to set your goal time for in minutes and seconds rather than for hours? And maybe everybody might say that I do believe, if you've done a study about typical psychology, that I think the measure and time by minutes, works best in compared to hours. Because if you try by hours, and you pretty much already know that if you try by hours, it seems like that your goals are going to take forever to be able to achieve them. But if you use by minutes, for sure, if you know exactly what is it that you got your mind set forth about what you want to use, for sure, like you might say that, oh yeah, it's going to take time, and for sure that I'm not going to have this ready, I'll have it done in 4 days or something like that. But like, let's just say that anything that you're going to be working on, for sure, you may have a brother that might ask you, how long do you think they're going to take? Do you think that it will be really unusual if they have something done in 4 minutes? And you might think this toward it, that's impossible. That's impossible for that quick amount of time. And so it's like, so if you actually done the chemistry study here, that you're warned toward it, if you would actually do the studies about this, about, if you're going to be setting a goal, that are you going to go ahead and pick your favorite number and keep your mind set for that? Like, and if you really want to accomplish something, for sure, if you're thinking about showing somebody something right away, do you think that you would use this word in quotes toward it, for every given voice is a given choice right here? So you would say something like that. And like, let's just say that, if it does work for anybody who's trying to show you something, and I want to know too that you put on there, for every given voice is a given choice, and then it maybe, let's just say that you had this ready, and it only took 4 minutes to be able to do it, and you're like, what's going on? That amount of time, like everybody else might say, that whenever you do set a goal, for most of the time, if you're done with it maybe within an hour, then people might say, well, that was pretty quick. But still, that people might even say too, the number of times that they tried, that it seems like that most of the time, it all starts by is to where that whenever you do have your mind, set to, whenever you do have your mind thinking set real hard for exactly what is it that you're wanting to use, and that you are ready to use it right away. So like everybody else might say, to anybody who's going to have a disability, might even say is to where that, the amount of work that you put into something, that, people might say is to where that maybe one of the reasons why that maybe something has has been done a lot quicker was because of, the amount of power and ability that you put into something, and knowing it, for impressive, right? But I'm just talking about right here is that, so every time you put that to a test right there, and let's just say that if I was talking the story right here, but then if I were to start the next page just by add in right here, and like everybody else might say that if you want to go ahead and add in a gradient right there in a 102, that about, for what I do know, and what I do know is what I see, coming within the next week. A week is also measured by, in 7 days. 7 days, and how many minutes would that be? I would say, if I've done the calculations correctly, like everybody else may say, 7 days, that would probably be about 1,500 minutes, something like that. Just use that. And so it's like, so every time you do think about that, and you're 102, is toward it, so like let's just say that if you were to write it just like that, and people might even say too, is toward it, there's a difference between the things that you really just don't want to do, or maybe you depend on what mood that you're going to be in, that you're going to maybe have your mind set forth for what you really want to use, and maybe for for how you want to do it and stuff like that. But let's just say that if you were to set a goal, and let's just say that you have your minutes, you have your mind counted as minutes, for minutes, right? So every time you do think about that, and it's like, something that the things that you were talking about from earlier. So it's like, the things that I was talking about from earlier, about the printing, right? Why, everybody else might say that, 12 hours, but in 4 minutes, right here. So I can include right here, talk about 4 minutes right here, but it's like, so it's like every time, see here, include that. I know it. I'm just trying to find, okay, 4 minutes. I can go and try to put it right here. 4 minutes. And, do you think it's really just impossible? It's impossible to have something done in 4 minutes. And like everybody else might say, that if you would actually give this to the test right here, that our goals and achievements, are they measured in hours or in minutes? And so it's like, every time you do think about that, and you're 102, is to where that most of the time, if somebody is asking you to do something, even on a resume for sure, if somebody's going to ask you to do something for sure, that do you think for sure if they're going to be counting on you to do something, they're more likely they're going to want it done in 4 minutes or so, and so that's why it seems like that almost every job that you do think about, if you don't have it done in 4 minutes, then chances are that nobody's going to want to use it, whichever. But let's just say if that was the case, like everybody else say that well, you should already know that whenever it comes to special disability, right? And so you would like to maybe have a few answers to that question right there about the top maybe the top 5 things that you can get done in 4 minutes. That includes writing a paper. That might include maybe putting together a word puzzle or something like that. Think about the things that you can have done in 4 minutes. You know, you work on it for 12 hours and you have it ready in 4 minutes. And so it's like, yeah, so like everybody else might say, is toward it, you know, for perfect timing or something like that, but talk about for hard work. So I know that, like everybody else might even say that, that, you know, yeah, that, you know, yeah, for real quick, but I thought I'd go ahead and talk about that just because of the fact that whenever it comes to, you know, working on something and the things that you do, that it's like almost everybody else is going to say that that's going to take time, you know, it's going to take a while, you know, just to get it done. But just think about that, is to where that the jobs that you can do within about an hour, and then the things that you can have done within 4 minutes. And maybe, you know, people might even say that, well, really, that while you were working on it, for sure, it seemed like it took a lot longer than that. But like everybody else might say that, you know, yeah, well, for sure, that if you were to actually put that to the test, if you were to actually test this out, and like if it's an Excel file or maybe even a PowerPoint, if you were to actually take that to put that to the test about how long it usually takes just to be able to achieve an assessment, you know, achieve a goal or a project, that if you do say, you know, time, and let's just say that time meant to be is toward that there's 7 days in a week, but let's just say that if I were to say, you know, 4 minutes right here, and, you know, people might say that, you know, yeah, well, for sure, do you think that you would want to use it on your infographic to where the you know, the things, the tasks that you can have done in 4 minutes? And do you think the chances are that people might say that, yeah, well, the chances are that maybe people are going to be counting on you, you know, to be able to do something, or ask you, yeah, you know, even if it is to read this and please tell me what this says right here. And so that's why it seems like, yeah, so you see this right here. This right here is like an example right here of a discussion. But let's just say that, you know, this page right here, you know, talks about is to where that, you know, while you were writing, that you know, yeah, so somebody decides that they want to go ahead and say a few other extra things, you know, like, yeah, about your disabilities, to where that, you know, I am willing to share with you about, you know, a lot of my knowledge, just by practicing. You know, just by practicing. So it's like just by practicing, you know, about a few of the basics. But on the other hand, when I do talk about my disability, you know, I am also referring to the story about something which has not happened yet. So each time, each time I do talk about it, it sure, you know, it sure seems that way. Yeah, it does not make any sense at first. So, like, let's just say if you were to write a message like that in 102, that I don't get it. What is it that you're trying to say? So, if I were to write a message like that, like a yeah, you know, now and later. So yeah, if you were to actually you see maybe a logo design like something like that, is to where you don't understand it at first, but then later you will have a much more understanding about what it means. So yeah, so it's like, so every time, yeah. So if I were to include, like anybody might even say too, that anything that you're going to be working on for sure, that you're 102, that yeah, that number one, that whenever you do first start working on something, that you see a message right here, and let's just say that yeah, so based on a conversation that you had with somebody, but let's just say that I'm like, yeah, I was putting this together, and let's just say that if I was going to go ahead and develop this into like maybe a few still images and look over it, so it's like, let's just say that the way that I put this together right here, it's 2 pages right here. So you got the front, the left right here, page 4 and 5 right here. Whenever you turn the pages, you got these 2 pages right here set for a document, right? So whenever you do look at this, and it's like, yeah, and like everybody else might say, is to, well, if you really were not really there, you would not know really what was discussed and what this is supposed to mean and what that's supposed to mean right there. So every time you think about that, and your 102 is toward it, yeah, well, really, that, whenever we do study about the mind of what people think, a lot of times it sure seems that way. That can we really get a better understanding of what that they're trying to say and what is it that they're trying to do just by, like, yeah, including the picture, or like, yeah, you just really got to know the person very well just to be able to tell, right? But almost every time I think about it, and it's like, yeah, speaking about disability right here, that you're 102, that yeah, all the hard work that you put into something, but still, that it's like a lot of times that whenever you do get into conversations, a lot of times that people are going to be asking most of the time about the stuff that you really don't know, or maybe let's just say that you go ahead and say that you just try to assume of what is it that was discussed, or try to assume the situation, right? So every time you do think about that, and 102, that okay, yeah, you start a conversation with somebody, but then it's like you're warned to where that yeah, I didn't quite understand at first, and so that's why it seems that way, to where that every time you do think about that, and you're warned to where that yeah, for sure, while you were working on something, not everybody really knows the details of what you were working with and what is it that you were talking about. So that is why it seems like that, yeah, you have conversations with an older brother and older sister, and thinking as to where that, do you think that it would help a lot if they actually saw something that was already done? Like, let's just say that if it was already improved, and let's just say that, if there was progress made or something, but still, but so you have right here is that, yeah, with this writing right here, and so I have right here, yeah, talk about for disability, but like everybody else might say, if you're going to be looking at this like on a blank page right here, and let's just say that there's about maybe 1 or 2 pages right here of something that really interested you, like yeah, like everybody say, whenever you're going to be looking at a document, and let's just say that if this right here looks really interesting whenever you read it. Okay, talking about cousins and talking about your disability and the things that you like to improve and setting any sorts of goals and achievements. And, if there was a spot right here, like, yeah, especially if you can, if anybody could really figure it out on how it works, right, on how to start writing and maybe how to start using the typing tools, for sure, everybody else might say is to where that, why do you think, why did you go ahead and decide to go ahead and take a step forward, whenever it comes to, the work that you were doing? And so it's like, yeah, so every time you think about that, and it's like, yeah, so the reason why that you go ahead and you were writing a little bit right here was because that, you actually took the time to read a few of the details right here. And I'm like, yeah, talk about for gifts, but everybody might think is that, that yeah, you do go ahead and try to read that and just to see what that says, and want to know too that yeah, what you said earlier was yeah, you go ahead and write your goal time for 4 minutes right here, and you write disability right here. And the first thing for sure, the first thing that you're going to be thinking about whenever you first see that, and maybe think that okay, yeah, it's impossible. It's going to be impossible to be able to have that done in 4 minutes. But let's just say that everybody else might say is toward it. If you want to try to impress anybody, even though if you have a disability, right? If you want to go and try to put that to the test, try to think about you think of one thing that you can have done in 4 minutes. One thing, and people might say is to well, the only thing that I can really think about is that is to showcase my work, like something I was working on the other day. I'm like, that's really like the only thing I can really think about. So like, let's just say, like everybody else might say, is that whenever you were really working hard on something for sure, if you were really working hard on something long enough for sure, like everybody says, to where are you going to see progress whenever you do the harder you work, and that's why it seems like everybody else might say that well, this the way I drew this, of course, but like everybody else may say, this right here is supposed to be for sisters right here. But like everybody else might say, that if you're going to be using this and putting this together in a printed page right here, where you're going to maybe having a meeting, talking to somebody about that, and what I know too is to where you remember having a meeting with somebody talking about that, or you went to that party and you were having that discussion with that somebody about that, and you were talking about buying them a gift and all that. So yeah, it's like so the way it all kind of connects, especially, and so like everybody else might say that well, for sure that you met this person it was at the restaurant. You met him at a restaurant, and let's just say if that was the case, that it was for Father's Day. You were at the restaurant for Father's Day, and you were able to talk to one of the daughters, and then you were able to talk about things, and you were able to introduce what you do and all that. So it's like everybody else might say that how does the story unfold like that, and so like everybody, I'm like you might think too that talk about the story unfold, and what does unfold pretty much mean? Well, it's I look at that as to where unfold. It pretty much means is all that information that was hid. I'm like, if you want to kind of call it hidden, but maybe not really hidden, but it's all about a lot of that information that has been provided, that remained either unsolved, or that it just was not quite understood during the time and all that. So it's like so every time you do think about that, and you're always thinking, almost every job that you do think about is that almost every job that you do think about is toward it. Whenever you do apply for a job, that how many employers are really going to be asking you that question about how long is this going to take just to be able to do this work and all that, and most of the time, if somebody's going to be asking you to work on something, I ask you to have this done quickly, and I need this now, and that is why it seems like everybody else may say is to where, do you think that maybe it's really helpful that maybe, like a pre-designed templates that are made, and like everybody else would even say too, is to where that, if you were working on something for sure, if you were working on something, and let's just say that the reason why you were working on something is if it became useful later on, and let's just say that while you were working on it, that somebody would say that okay, well, I think I believe that I could use it if you don't mind if I could use it, and so like everybody else might say is to where that every time you do think about that, do you necessarily think about a gift, a disability, and something special about that, right? So every time you think about that, I'm like, the things that you just don't quite think about, just yet, and that's why it seems like, yeah, people might say that, even after the Father's Day weekend, that you just don't think about things, and whenever you don't think about things for sure, that when things just start coming to your mind, and a lot of times it's like, yeah, there's a lot that have to do with feeling. There's a lot that have to do with maybe presenting any examples of what is it that you're trying to say and what is it that you're talking about. And usually that helps too, but still. But like everybody says, toward yeah, talking about our older sister, our older brother, being the oldest does make you feel like you're grown enough to be able to answer the questions what they have personally, the conversations with someone. You be more confident with it when it comes to a cousin, a brother, and whenever you do give, you are also thinking about that special someone, and that special someone is telling telling the other person something. And whenever I do speak about my disability, I am also talking about to where that I have a harder time understanding things, and when it does come to meeting the requirements. So if anybody who's going to be reading that for sure, like everybody might say that, yeah, well, really, they didn't quite understand during that time what is it that you were talking about, and so that is why it seems like that whenever you do, whenever you do see something that was already, that was already, like, yeah, example of something that was already done, something that was already done, and example of something that kind of got you an idea of what you wanted to work with, right? Just to kind of give you a head start, and so it's like, yeah, so if somebody were to say that if you want to go ahead and write a story about something, and the first thing that I would think about, of course, is a true story, something impressive or something like that, maybe poetry or something like that, words, putting together words and all, but still, that everybody else might say that, yeah, well, really, that, do you think that you would want to go ahead and write a poetry about friends? And, like, okay, yeah, friends, and you want to, yeah, friends. And so if I want to go ahead and write a story talking about friends, friends are, those, you are close to, and that you develop a good, trusted with them. You develop a good trusted relationship with them, and so yeah, it's like, so if I were, so yeah, and then but talking about that, for friends right here, like, friends, my good, my good, yeah. So if I were to do like any sorts of poetry or something like that, like everybody else may say that poems are usually supposed to start with those words I'm knowing about. I'm like, yeah, if it's between good expressions about how you think about something in a certain subject matter, independent, nouns and verbs and stuff like that. But I'll tell you one thing, though, that whenever we do speak about, I talk about for friends right here, but still, but I know with me, though, that whenever you do start writing about something that you feel is to, I'm like, yeah, I'll go ahead and put right here. Check, I'm like, yeah, refer a friend, but still, so if I were to be typing something for sure, writing something, and like everybody says, to where, yeah, you go ahead and start writing about something, talking about your disability, and your 102 is that yeah, who all could really be reading that and knowing that if they can really agree with what you're talking about, if they can really understand what you're talking about. But let's just say that the reason why you start talking, that you do start typing right here, is because that yeah, you're typing for what comes to your mind, right? And so yeah, I talk about friends, but the one thing that I did want to talk about is to where that I do know that there is a lot of information, yeah, talking about for dreams, that come to my mind when I speak about dreams. When I speak about dreams, so when I dream about things, when I dream about things, I see, whenever I dream about things, I see things that not everyone else can see. So that is why a lot of that thinking, is harder for that someone to better understand. So every time you do think about that, and you're warned toward it, you start writing, and then somebody's gonna maybe say this toward, okay, yeah, you go ahead and start writing right here, and what I know is toward, yeah, you go ahead and just start jotting down a few notes or anything that you want to talk about based on your disability, right? But so it's like, yeah, so like if you're gonna be writing, and let's just say that that if you do write any, like maybe a full paper, or maybe 4 or 5 page long paper right here, not everybody's really going to understand what all that you were talking about on it. But like, yeah, people might say that, yeah, some of it could even be a little bit boring, but on the other hand, that when we do speak about disability, right, that the first thing that you're going to be thinking about is that, yeah, you really just want to write down the things that come to your mind. You just go ahead and start writing those down before you allow allow this other person to be able to read, look over your work, and to find it interesting. But I just want to talk about for cousins right here, because I know that whenever it comes to giving, right here, talking about our older brother and our older sister, and so yeah, so it's like, how often are we going to be thinking about that? Jobs, the jobs that they're going to be called, cousin level or something like that, or a lot of times you hear about junior level, senior level, or something like that, and whenever it comes to jobs, but still, positions and all, but for every given voice is a given choice, and so what does that mean? I can put on here, I'm like, yeah, in big letter. I'm like, yeah, what does that mean? It means, I can put on here on the top, it means is toward it, is toward it that whenever, for every given voice. So it's like, a voice that really made progress. I can just say progress right here. The voice that really made progress, that was recognized, right? So it's like, yeah, so one person, if somebody were to say that, say that, for a given voice, so it's like, yeah, it's their voice, but then also that that was given. I'm like, yeah, that like as a suggestion, right? And if you want to kind of look at that, maybe just a little bit, kind of like a suggestion to where that if you were able to achieve your goals, for sure, that you would tell everybody that, yeah, for every given voice is a choice, and so really, that if you were to actually use it in anybody might say just for a teaching, just for teaching somebody something or something like that. And 102 is to where that, yeah, do you think that really makes a difference? But whenever we do think about giving, though, right here, that want to know is that I'm like, yeah, talk about forgiving right here, and all the hard work that you put into something, and let's just say that, like everybody else might say, is toward, yeah, did you like my presentation? Yeah, did you like what I was showing you? And so yeah, so it's like, yeah, so like everybody might even say too that that every time you do, every time you do work for maybe if help somebody else, and maybe if you do work and you do something and do something nice, and I'm like, yeah, people might say is toward, yeah, whenever it comes to doing something nice, for sure, whenever it comes to doing something nice, what do you think about that? Like, well, very much means, but I'll go and show right here. I'm like, yeah, top up for distiller right here. And, but yeah, so if I were to actually distill, talking about for added distiller right here, and so it's like, yeah, so every time you're going to be thinking about that, and when I'm like, yeah, top up for pixels and all that, but still that but I on the other hand, that whenever it comes to prints and all that, but anyway, yeah, I just showing everybody that right there, but I I am talking about all this stuff right here, but I just really think too is toward it whenever you do look at a logo right here, and at 102 is toward, yeah, from right here at the top is toward what are the basic requirements about that being special citizenship right here. So really anything that you think about, any words or phrases or anything that you call, so I'm like, yeah, talk about for real quick right here. You're always 102 is toward, yeah. It all started just by is toward, yeah, you start working on something, and then people start asking questions, that's how it all started, right? When people ask the questions, for sure, when somebody asks questions, that's how it all starts. Yep, I like almost all the time, right? That whenever you do not questions, but questions. But anyway, yeah, so it's like every time you think about that in the 102, that yeah, the questions. And all right, talk about for disability, right? But anyway, I yeah, tell everybody too that maybe another reason why that a presentation is going to take a little bit longer is just because of the fact that yeah, like everybody else might say that whenever you first start working on something, for sure, it might only take you maybe 15 minutes to put it all together, but just how, like everybody else might say, is to where yeah. So do you think that maybe a logo design right here, you have right here is like part blue and maybe part white right here, like top up for the question mark right here. So if you were to actually, yeah, like any meetings that you're going to maybe be having with anybody, and maybe they're going to be asking you that too, as to, well, what exactly does that mean? If you were to actually do like an actual printed document, just like this right here, with like a little blue background right there, but you're going to have the Q for questions right here. You're going to have like a little symbol right here that's going to show a different backdrop, like a little different background right here. And like everybody might say is toward a yeah. Well, that means is toward it yeah. So almost every designer might even say is toward that the reason why they did that was because maybe just to be creative, or maybe that they just didn't think about it during the time, or whichever the reason could have been. But still, where they do two different colors, they do one part of the word, they do a different background, and the other one they're going to have a different color in the background, and just how it was all put together, right? And you're warned toward it, yeah, maybe not everybody's really going to know what all that means right there, but it's like, yeah. So if you're going to be talking about something, and let's just say that yeah, it only takes you about maybe 5 minutes to read this, but then you have right here the questions right here, and yeah, so anybody who doesn't really understand what all that you put together for sure, and want to know too that yeah, so you pretty much have to say that to where that anything that you put together for this week, of course, is going to be effective for by tomorrow, right? So it's like, yeah. So every time you do think about that is to where yeah, you go ahead and write in a few sentences right here, and if you were to put on here, for tomorrow, and so yeah, so if you put on here tomorrow, for matchable tomorrow, but still, if you were to put on, yeah, for tomorrow, and I don't know how many of us have really seen that. How many of us have really seen that? Yeah, like a logo for tomorrow right there, for 12 hours tomorrow or something. I haven't seen very many designs, but like everybody else might even say that is to where yeah, tomorrow. And tomorrow can really, like, yeah, like you've heard that before. People say, yeah, we can do this tomorrow. We can look at that tomorrow. And, but really, but if you put on here, 4 minutes, tomorrow or something like that, how many of us, you're going to go ahead and put on there, yeah. It don't really have to be 4 minutes, but you could just, yeah, like an adjective is to where for sure that if anybody who's going to be anxious to look at something for sure, they're going to say that, no, we can go ahead and look at it now. And, so yeah, so if you were to actually think about that in 102, that if you can actually put together a logo design like tomorrow, 4 minutes. So like let's just say that if this right here is supposed to, the way it was set right here to where that yeah, that yeah, maybe not everybody's really going to understand what all that means at first, but then the way that it was designed, and let's just say that I put on here for tomorrow, and let's just say that if it's recognized, and somebody might even say that, okay, yeah, I recognize that, or I know what you mean, and so yeah, if you say tomorrow, 4 minutes right there, what does that really tell anybody? And I say, well, they're really interesting to know what happens next, and then for how much progress that you can make out of it, right? And so that is why it seems like that every time you do think about that, a number of times that you tried, like based on, yeah, your disability and all that, but people might say too that whenever you do think about your disability, though, it sure seems that way, that you got problems. You have problems that not everybody wants to deal with. You got problems. There's problems that not everybody wants to deal with, and that is why it seems like, yeah, problems. Problems that are waiting to be solved a lot of times, and like everybody might say that, yeah, you had problems understanding what you had to do just to be able to meet the requirements and everything, and that is why it seems like that yeah, for people just to be able to get that special attention, just to be able to make real good progress, that somebody might say that yeah, that the work that you were doing especially, but you really, what's one thing that you could maybe teach somebody whenever it comes to the work in progress, right? And you might think is to where, yeah, one thing that one skill that you can maybe show somebody, and people might say that yeah, well, really, that something that you learned at your own time, known as talent, and that's why it seems like that every time you do think about that in 102, that you go ahead and, if you were to start writing right here, talking about charities and talks about disabilities and everything, but really, if you were to go ahead and just begin writing right here, and let's just say that if somebody were to read this in its entirety, and if they were to say that, okay, yeah, that looks very familiar, I recognize that, or yeah, so if they would actually read this in its entirety, and for sure, just to know exactly what is it that it means and what is it that this says and all that. And so yeah, so if you were to, yeah, it's an example, but yeah, talk about for disability, but still, it's like, so every time you're going to be thinking about that, and the first thing that you're going to be thinking about is that, what's the, really, well, what's the reason, what's the point of spending so much time with it, maybe when it's not going to do any good, but still. On the other hand, that every time you think about your goals and achievements, right, it seems like the first thing that you pretty much have to say is that there's something about your work that really needs to approach your audience, right? If you like what you see, for sure, people might say it's, if you really like what you were working with right here, you're trying to get your audience to see, what you're working with and trying to get them to understand. And so like everybody else might say that, just doing it, like, yeah, just a little bit of doodling and all, but still, but also creative writing. And that is why it seems like that, yeah, you go ahead and start out with special right here. And so like I said before, I include this infographic right here mainly because, to represent, for the American flag right here for the 4th of July coming up. But you see right here that yeah, so if I were to actually use this right here, and like, yeah, for like an infographic, and let's just say that the first thing I talk about is that talk about for the children, for children who do suffer from, from physical or mental disabilities, for understanding their disabilities and all that. So what does that mean? Well, that means is that anybody who has a lot of difficulties understanding things, and that they had that problem, they've had that issue since birth, any difficulties understanding, things, and they had a lot of difficulties with trying to, yeah, so it's like, so each time you do think about that, and you might want to know too, is that if there's any source of study about that, talk about for citizenship, citizenship, those who are on disability though, that, does that mean that, that does not mean that you don't have good talent, that does not mean that you don't have skills, that just means that you had difficulties, you have a lot of difficulties with, with learning and understanding things. It's all, like everybody else may say, that quite a bit of it is totally different than compared to everybody else. But still, the goal, the key factor of the matter is to know is that trying to get companies to need what you do and trying to get them to like what you were working on. So like every time you do think about this in 102, is that while you were working on this, while I was working on this, that what's a lot of things that you see about it that you really like, but that that other person, the audience behind the curtain may not be able to see all that right away, so they didn't quite understand it during the time, and that is why it seems like that. Yeah, would it be really helpful? It would be very helpful if you can go ahead and piece together some examples of some of your work, so that way we can better understand it. And that is why it seems like, like everybody else might say that, whenever you do buy a gift to show your support, right? That, what exactly is it telling somebody? And they might say that, well, really, that can show support, and then also that are you trying to, are you trying to show them something, or are you trying to teach them something, or whichever? But like everybody else may say that, yeah, the main reason why you're doing this activity right here is so that way you can tell everybody about the things that you do know. And it's like really quickly though, it's like, yeah, you don't really want to answer I don't know on a test. So like, let's just say that, like everybody else might say, that if you were to write on here on the top saying I do know. So if you were to say that, and yeah, so it's like everybody else might say that the answers that you give a lot of times, it's also about feedback. And in case of anybody that didn't know, it is to where any comments and feedback for sure. But it's like, yeah, like everybody else might say, is to where and I know that that's how a lot of companies a lot of businesses, that's how they do business nowadays, is to where that they're able to collect feedback from their customers and their clients and anybody who's recently gone shopping over there at that store or anything else that you were doing. They're going to ask about the feedback, right? So it's like, yeah. So you don't really, you don't really want to say disability like everybody else might say, is to where, the disability pretty much means that you have a lot of difficulties understanding things compared to normal, to normal study. And but still, that also means that you have talent, you have skills. And talk about for feedback right here. So a lot of companies, for sure, a lot of companies are going to be asking for feedback, right? So every time you do think about that, and you're always warned to where that, based on your opinion, that, if you say, I don't know all the time, what is that really going to tell everybody? Well, that pretty much means is to where that, okay, I don't see no reason to have to provide that information to you, or that, no, well, what does that mean? What does that mean for you anyhow? And, but still, I can go ahead, I'll go and open up this document so we can see right here. But still, it's like, I have right here, talk about for this, but still, it's like, if we can all see this right here, and top for special, and in Acrobat, but still, it's like, so every time you do think about that in 102, that you go ahead and piece together this document right here, this PDF file document right here, of like a story or anything that includes an infographic, so that way you can explain to somebody, and like anybody say, is to where that, so every time you do think about that, and you're warned to where that, during the time that this person, during that time, they didn't quite understand what is it that you were talking about until that they were able to review the work. And that is why it seems like, it's like, So it's like, with distiller right here, go and include, images right here, general. I'm sure most of us have seen this already, but to save the portable job tab. So these are the settings right here, but allow PostScript file to override Adobe PDF settings right here. But anyway, but that right there, the PostScript document. But so if I were to actually be working on this, and for sure, and if I was going to be sharing this, sending this by email to somebody, and for sure that what they would see is that they would see the work that I put together right here. And 102, something special about that. And that is why it seems like that each time we do think about that, and you're thinking as to where that, any questions? Like, well, so after you talk maybe after you talk, maybe after the first 10 minutes, there's going to maybe be somebody that's going to have a question for you. And so it's like, so every time you think about that, and you're warned to where that your questions for me, but still. So that talking about the older brother and the older sister, but anyway, but you have right here of like all the hard work that you put into something, and talk about for 4 minutes and for tomorrow right here. And so it's like, whenever you're going to be working on something for sure, and people might say that you just start working for what reason? I'm like, one of those reasons was because that somebody actually showed you how to do something. Somebody actually showed you how this works, and so that's why it became interesting to you, and that's why you just started working more on it. And so everybody say, it's all about somebody becoming interested in that work, that you're doing. And that's why it seems like that you were working on this right here. And then, by the time you figure it out on how to respond to a conversation, or maybe how to present your work in a more simple, fashionable way, something like that. And so it's like, people might say, yeah, I don't know if you really call it the voice, but maybe the word genius or something like that. But still, it's like, so every time you think about that, and you're always want to know too, is that, yeah, whenever you do, what does all that really remind you of, really? I'm like, well, really, that, whenever you do start a conversation with somebody, the first thing that you were thinking about, it was that, you want to have a conversation with somebody, and it's kind of like a back and forth conversation, that, everybody is really kind of all pretty quiet about something, and they don't really want to talk about everything just yet. It's all about making them feel more comfortable with talking about it, right? But whenever it comes to speaking about your disability, right? And so it's like, yeah, so every time you do think about that, and you're warned to where trying to make this person feel more comfortable, trying to make them feel more confident, to be able to reach out and, just to be able to talk, right? And so whenever you do look at this right here, and 102 is to where you think about that, is to where, somebody's going to say for sure, they're going to tell you that, what is it? Can you show me some examples of the work that you do? And so, like everybody else might say, that the first thing that you think about whenever you do think about a job, you think about, okay, yeah, well, it's going to take time. And so, how do you really know how fast the job's going to get done? And let's just say that, you're able to show enough progress within reasonable timing at the more work that you put into it, right? So it's like let's just say that, the way that, so like everybody else might even say that, yeah, well, of course, while you were sleeping, that you were thinking about, you were thinking about while you were sleeping, and it seems like that, just be surprised, right? To be surprised about it, that while you were sleeping, you were thinking about it, and so it's like, yeah, so every time you do think about that, and you go ahead and write down a few ideas and a few agendas, and thinking as to where does that really work, as to where you go ahead and set the goal for the amount of minutes, not maybe, if not in 4 minutes, but then in 400 minutes. You try to set that goal for up to 400 minutes, and just to see how much progress that could be made. And people might say that, yeah, just be surprised on how much progress that you give, right? And people might say is toward for every given voice is a given choice. So that's, yeah. So it's like something that you would say, right? And but I just thought I'd talk about that right there, talk about for the writing. But anyway, I hope it helps everybody. You just better understand that. Talk about for disability, but happy Father's Day, and talk about for welcome right here. For the hard work right here. But I thought everybody else would like to see that you're talking about for what you do, and for real quick right there. And so I know that anybody might even say too that whenever you do start writing, that the first thing that you're going to be thinking about is that really, it don't, I'm like, yeah, that don't really make any sense, or that while you're writing, that what you're trying to do is like, yeah, you're trying to feel more confident with trying to understand the writing tools. And so that is why it seems like that, whenever you do start writing, for sure, that you go ahead and start writing, but then think about that. Think about something that you're going to look forward to. Think about something that you're going to be looking forward to looking at for tomorrow, right? And that might get your mind mainly focused on the things that you're waiting to be able to accomplish, right? The things that you can see that not everybody else can. And so, like everybody else might say that, so every time you're working on something, yeah, not everybody is really going to understand it at first, and so that's why it seems that way, to where that, that's why it seems like it could be very frustrating, and also, it could also be, time consuming. But it's like, each time you think about that, and people might say is to where it would really help out a lot, for sure, that, if you want to go ahead include like a little media graphic, an infographic right here, just to be able to kind of give yourself an idea of what you want to work with, for sure. You want to go ahead and use something like that just to kind of give yourself an idea, like a customized or advanced, example of something that's an example of what it's going to look like when it's done, when it's finished, so that way you can show everybody. And, a presentation of what it looks like. And so I'm sure anybody might say that whenever you do draw out an example of, you have an idea that that's going to work, a lot sooner than you thought. And, so really, why do you think the infographics work most of the time? Well, number one, though, that you find something very real interesting about something, and for sure, that's going to guide you for what anything about the most difficulties whenever it comes to getting the most difficult task. Trying to get those tough challenges, trying to get a lot of those challenges accomplished. That you picture something that you look forward to seeing, right? And people might say that with the American flag right there in the background, or if anything, it was something that you were working on, that really, you put in enough hard work into it. You put in enough hard work into it, and for sure, that somebody, somebody really liked what you were working with. But I think about talking special, right? But anyway, thanks for watching, everyone. Talking about understanding about, about for gift of giving, about special, but then also I'm talking about for the 4 minutes, set for 4 minutes. But anyway, thanks for watching, everyone, and talking for special, but then also whenever it comes to the things for what we do know for real quick, right here, real quick, and but anyway, real quick, but then you're a voice. For every voice, a given voice is a given choice, right? But anyway, thanks for watching, everyone, and have a great day.